Blood on marble. That's what I remember most about the night everything changed. I was on my knees, scrubbing red wine from white stone, watching it swirl pink under my rag. The kind of stain that would cost me my paycheck if it didn't come out. My hands were raw. My back ached. And somewhere in the kitchen, the other servers whispered a name I'd never forget. Darius Falcone. I didn't look up when they said it. Didn't need to. You don't work at La Terrina for 3 months without learning the rules. Keep your head down. Don't ask questions. And if the Falcones walk through that door, you disappear into the walls. They said he built his empire on fear. That he owned half the city before he turned 30. That his wife died under circumstances nobody talked about, and his 3 daughters were so wild, so broken, that nannies fled the estate in the middle of the night. One woman supposedly changed her name and moved to another state. I pressed harder into the marble, feeling the grit under my nails. The restaurant was closing early tonight. Private event. Family gathering. Which meant the Falcones were coming, and I needed to finish this floor before they arrived. My manager, Curtis, appeared in my periphery. Tall, nervous, always sweating. Ivy, you done yet? Almost. Make it faster. They'll be here in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I scrubbed faster, ignoring the burn in my shoulders. This job was all I had. The attic I rented above the flower shop on 5th cost more than I made in a week, but it was mine. The first place I'd had to myself since Mama died and Daddy vanished into whatever hole men like him disappear into. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Curtis hovered. You know who's coming tonight, right? I know. Then you know not to stare. Not to speak unless spoken to. Not to. I know, Curtis. He left. I kept scrubbing. The wine stain was almost gone when I heard the sound that would split my life into before and after. Tires. Screaming against asphalt. I looked up through the floor-to-ceiling windows, just as the black car swerved. It happened so fast my brain couldn't process it. 1 second, the street was empty. The next, a little girl stood frozen on the curb, her yellow dress bright against the dark. The car was losing control, heading straight for her. I didn't think. Thinking would have kept me inside, safe, invisible like I'd always been. But my legs were already moving. The door slammed open under my palm. Cold air hit my face. I ran. The girl's eyes went wide when she saw me coming. I grabbed her, pulling her back just as the car mounted the curb. We hit the ground together. My knees cracked against concrete. Her small body trembled under my arms. The car stopped, inches away, so close I could smell burning rubber. Are you okay? I whispered, checking her for injuries. My hands were shaking. Are you hurt? She stared at me like I'd appeared out of thin air. You saved me. Are you? That's when I heard them. Footsteps. Running. 2 more girls, identical to the first, their faces twisted in panic. And behind them, a figure that made the night itself seem to hold its breath. Darius Falcone. He was taller than I imagined. Broader. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, the kind of expensive that doesn't need logos. But it was his face that stopped me. Hard lines. Sharp jaw. Eyes like winter, cold, calculating, the kind that saw everything and forgave nothing. He looked at his daughter. Then at me. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. The girl clung to my arm. She's okay? I managed, my voice barely there. The car it almost. Darius raised one hand. The men behind him, guards, I realized, with guns under their jackets, froze mid-step. Your name. His voice was quiet. Controlled. The kind of quiet that made you listen harder.
Ivy.
Ivy Murrin. You work here. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. He studied me. Not like Curtis studied the wine stain, looking for flaws. Not like the customers studied the menu, deciding what they wanted. He looked at me like I was a puzzle he hadn't expected to find. Like my face held an answer to a question he'd stopped asking years ago. The girl, his daughter, squeezed my hand. Daddy, she saved me. Something shifted in his expression. not softness. Men like him didn't do soft. But something human flickered behind those winter eyes. You'll be compensated, he said. I don't need. That wasn't a request. He stepped closer. I could see the gray at his temples now, the thin scar above his left eyebrow. What you did, people don't do that anymore. Not in this city. Not for strangers. She's a child. She's my child. The emphasis was slight but sharp, which makes what you did either very brave or very foolish. I didn't know what to say to that. The other two girls had reached us now, circling their sister, checking her over with rough hands and worried eyes. Identical faces. Identical fear. Triplets. Darius looked at the driver of the car, who'd emerged pale and stammering. One look was all it took. The man went silent. Then Darius turned back to me. Go home, Miss Murren. Someone will contact you. Sir, I really don't need. You saved my daughter's life. His tone cut through my protest like a blade through silk. In my world, that means something, whether you want it to or not. He walked away. The girls followed. The guards followed. And I was left kneeling on cold concrete, my uniform torn, my knees bleeding, watching the Falcone family disappear into La Terrina like shadows folding back into dark. Curtis found me 5 minutes later. What the hell happened? I looked at my hands. They were still shaking. I don't know. But that was a lie. I knew exactly what happened. I'd stepped into a world I didn't understand, saved a life I wasn't supposed to touch, and caught the attention of the most dangerous man in New York. And something told me he wasn't done with me yet. If you think one act of kindness can change everything, hit that like button. Because what happens next will prove you right. 3 days. That's how long it took for the Falcones to come back into my life. I spent those days trying to forget, trying to convince myself it was over. Just a moment. A random Tuesday, where I happened to be in the right place at the right time. Nothing more. But Curtis wouldn't let me forget. Every shift, he'd pull me aside, ask if I'd heard anything. His eyes were different now. Nervous. Like I'd become something he couldn't predict. They don't just let things go, Ivy, he said on the 3rd day, wiping down the bar with shaking hands. The Falcones. When they say they'll contact you, they mean it. It's been 3 days. Exactly. He poured himself a drink even though it was only noon. 3 days means they're deciding something. What that something is. He didn't finish. I went back to my tables. Lunch rush was starting, and I needed the tips. My landlord had already slipped a notice under my door. Late again. 1 more month, and I'd be out. The restaurant filled with the usual crowd. Businessmen in expensive suits. Women with designer bags. People who spent more on lunch than I made in a week. I smiled. Took orders. Brought food. Disappeared into the background like I always did. Until Curtis appeared beside my station, his face drained of color. Ivy. Manager's office. Now. My stomach dropped. Did I do something wrong? He didn't answer. Just gestured toward the back. The walk down that hallway felt longer than it should have. My mind raced through possibilities. They were firing me. They'd found out about the late rent, the unpaid bills, the fact that I'd lied on my application about having experience in fine dining. But when I pushed open the office door, it wasn't my manager waiting inside. It was a man in a black suit. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running down his left cheek. He didn't smile. Ivy Murren? Yes. I'm Marcus. Mr. Falcone sent me. He placed an envelope on the desk. Thick. Heavy. You're requested at the estate. Tonight. 7 o'clock. A car'll pick you up. I stared at the envelope. Requested for what? Employment discussion. I have a job. Not like this one. Marcus's expression didn't change. Mr. Falcone doesn't make offers twice. The car will be outside your building at 7. I suggest you're ready. He left before I could respond. The envelope sat on the desk, practically glowing. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside was a note, handwritten in sharp, precise script. Miss Murren, we need to talk. DF. That was it. No explanation. No details. Just an order disguised as an invitation. Curtis appeared in the doorway. What did he want? I'm supposed to go to the estate tonight. His face went even paler. The Falcone estate? Apparently. Ivy. He sat down heavily. Do you understand what that means? People don't get invited there. They get summoned. And when they get summoned, it's because... He trailed off, like finishing the sentence might make it real. Because what? Because Darius Falcone wants something, and what he wants, he gets. I should have been scared. Should have refused, thrown the note away, maybe even left the city entirely. But standing there in that cramped office, all I could think about was the little girl in the yellow dress. The way she looked at me. The way her father had studied my face like I was something unexpected. I'll go, I heard myself say. Curtis shook his head. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But mistakes were the only thing I seemed good at anymore. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I served food I didn't taste, smiled at faces I didn't see. By 6:30, I was standing outside my building, wearing the only dress I owned that didn't have stains. Black, simple, probably wrong for wherever I was going. The car arrived exactly at 7. Black. Sleek. The kind that probably cost more than everything I'd ever owned combined. Marcus stepped out, opened the back door, without a word. I got in. The drive took 40 minutes. We left the city behind, moved into neighborhoods where the houses had gates and the lawns looked like paintings. Then we turned onto a private road, trees closing in on both sides, and suddenly we were pulling up to something that didn't look real. The Falcone estate. It wasn't a house. It was a statement. Stone and glass and shadows, rising up against the darkening sky like something out of a movie. Lights glowed in windows. Guards stood at every corner, their presence more felt than seen. Marcus led me inside. The foyer alone was bigger than my entire apartment. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art on the walls that probably belonged in museums. Wait here, Marcus said, then disappeared through a door. I stood there, feeling small and out of place and suddenly very aware that I just walked into a world I didn't belong in. The air smelled like leather and expensive cologne, and something else. Something I couldn't name. Power, maybe. Or danger. Or both. Footsteps echoed. I turned. Darius Falcone emerged from a hallway, still in that black suit, still radiating that quiet control. But up close, in better light, I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The weight he carried. Miss Murren, thank you for coming. I didn't think I had a choice. A small smile, almost imperceptible. Smart woman. He gestured toward the hallway. Walk with me. We moved through corridors lined with portraits of men who looked like they'd built empires on blood and ambition. Darius didn't speak until we reached a study, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling books, a desk that probably cost more than a car. He poured 2 drinks. Handed me one even though I didn't ask for it. I'll be direct, he said. I need someone for my daughters. Someone who can reach them. A nanny. A caretaker. A guide. Call it what you want. He took a sip, his eyes never leaving mine. 17 people have tried in the past 3 years. None lasted more than 2 weeks. Most left after 3 days. One. He paused. One disappeared entirely. Why me? Because you saved Livia without thinking about it, without wanting something in return, without fear. He set down his glass. My daughters don't trust anyone anymore. Can't really. But Livia asked about you. Twice. That's more than she said about anyone in years. I looked at the drink in my hand. Mr. Falcone, I've never been a caretaker. I don't know anything about. Exactly. He interrupted, his voice sharp. Everyone else came with credentials, experience, degrees. They try to control my daughters like problems to be solved. You don't see them that way. That's why you might actually succeed. And if I say no? His expression didn't change. Then you go home. No harm. No consequences. But you'll always wonder if you could have made a difference. He was right. I hated that he was right. What exactly would I be doing? Living here. Full-time. Helping them navigate, Everything. School, emotions, life. Being present. He leaned back. They've been through things no child should experience. Their mother died when they were 10. Since then, it's been chaos. I've given them everything except what they actually need. Which is someone who gives a damn. Someone who'll stay.
His jaw tightened.
Someone who won't run when things get hard. The study felt smaller suddenly. Warmer. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on my chest. I need to think about it. You have tonight. The car will take you home. If you decide yes, it'll return tomorrow morning. If you decide no, he shrugged. Then I'll find someone else who'll inevitably fail, and my daughters will lose another person they try to trust. The guilt was intentional, calculated, but it worked. Marcus appeared to escort me out. I didn't say goodbye to Darius.
Didn't know what to say.
The drive home felt longer, quieter, filled with questions I couldn't answer. When I finally climbed the stairs to my attic apartment, the notice from my landlord was still there. Final warning. I looked at it for a long time. Then I looked at the note from Darius Falcone, still folded in my pocket. By morning, I'd made my decision. And 3 words kept repeating in my mind, over and over, like a warning I should have heeded. You'll regret this. The car came at 8. I'd packed everything I owned into 2 garbage bags and a backpack. Wasn't much. Clothes, a few books, a photo of Mama from before she got sick. The landlord had been thrilled when I told him I was leaving. Didn't even ask for the back rent. Marcus didn't talk during the drive. Just loaded my bags into the trunk like they weighed nothing and held the door open. Professional. Cold. Efficient. This time, I noticed things I'd missed before. The way the trees along the private road bent inward, creating a tunnel. The cameras hidden in the branches. The fact that we passed through 3 separate gates before reaching the house itself. This wasn't just wealth. This was fortress. Darius met me at the entrance. Same black suit. Same unreadable expression. But something in his shoulders had relaxed, like he'd been holding his breath and finally let it out. You came. I said I would. People say a lot of things. He took one of my bags. The gesture felt strange coming from him.
Come.
I'll show you your room, then introduce you to the girls. We walked through corridors I hadn't seen the night before. The house was massive, sprawling, the kind of place you could get lost in. Every room we passed looked like it belonged in a magazine.
Perfect.
Untouched. Empty. How many people live here? I asked. Depends on the day. Staff comes and goes. Security's always present. But the only permanent residents are me and my daughters. He paused at a staircase. And now you. My room was on the 2nd floor, east wing. It had its own bathroom, a bed bigger than my entire apartment, windows overlooking gardens that looked professionally maintained. There was even a sitting area with a couch and a fireplace. This is too much, I said. It's what we have available. Darius set my bag down. Get settled. I'll have someone bring up lunch. The girls are in their wing. I'll introduce you this afternoon. Their wing. The 3rd floor. They have their own space. Bedrooms, study room, library. His expression darkened slightly. They prefer it that way. Less interaction with the rest of the house. He left before I could ask what that meant. I unpacked slowly, trying to process the fact that this was real. That I'd actually agreed to live in a mansion, work for a man everyone feared, take care of 3 girls nobody could handle. The whole thing felt like a dream. Or a nightmare. Couldn't decide which. Lunch arrived on a silver tray. Actual silver. The food looked too pretty to eat, some kind of grilled salmon with vegetables I didn't recognize. I ate it anyway, sitting in the window seat, watching gardeners work below. At 3 o'clock, there was a knock. Darius stood in the hallway. Ready, as I'll ever be. We climbed to the 3rd floor. The atmosphere changed up here. The walls were the same pristine white, but there were marks on them. Scratches.
Dents.
A crack in one of the mirrors that looked intentional. Music played from somewhere.
Loud.
Aggressive. The kind that made your chest vibrate. Darius stopped at a door. Before we go in, you should know something. They will test you.
Push boundaries.
Try to make you leave. It's what they do. It's what they've always done.
Why?
Because everyone leaves eventually. Better to make it happen fast than to hope for something different. He knocked. The music cut off abruptly. Silence. Then a voice, sharp and cold. We didn't order anything. Bianca opened the door, Darius said. Movement. Whispers. Finally, the door opened. The girl standing there was beautiful in a harsh way. 16, maybe 17, with dark skin, dark eyes, and an expression that could cut glass. She looked at me like I was an insect that had wandered into her space by mistake. Another one, she said. Really, Daddy? This is Ivy Murrin. She'll be staying with us. For how long? A week? 3 days. Bianca's smile was all edges. That's the record, you know. 3 days before she ran out crying. I'm not here to run, I said quietly. Bianca's eyes narrowed. We'll see. Behind her, I could see the others. 2 more girls, identical faces, but completely different energy. One sat on a couch, painting her nails black, not looking up. The other stood by the window, staring out, her shoulders tense. Serena and Livia. Had to be. Darius put a hand on my shoulder.
Light.
Brief. Give her a chance. Then he left. Just walked away, leaving me standing in the doorway with 3 girls who looked at me like I was an enemy to be eliminated. Bianca crossed her arms.
So, Ivy.
What makes you think you're different from all the others? I don't. That caught her off guard. What? I don't think I'm different. I don't have experience or degrees or credentials. I'm just. I took a breath. I'm just someone who's willing to try. Serena finally looked up from her nails. She was smaller than Bianca, but her eyes held something wild. Unpredictable. Try what? To be here. To not run. To maybe help if I can. We don't need help, Bianca said flatly. Okay. Another pause. They hadn't expected agreement. Livia still hadn't moved from the window. I recognized her now, the girl in the yellow dress. Up close, I could see the sadness in her eyes. The weight. Livia, I said softly. You okay? She turned, looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once, and went back to the window.
Bianca stepped closer.
Here's how this works. We do what we want.
You stay out of our way.
You don't tell Daddy anything. You don't try to fix us. And maybe, we won't make your life completely miserable. Sounds fair. She blinked. You're serious? I'm serious. Serena laughed. Bitter. Sharp. This is going to be fun. I didn't respond. Just stood there, feeling the weight of their stares, their skepticism, their walls built so high I couldn't see the top. Bianca finally stepped back. Your room's down the hall. Stay in it. We'll let you know if we need anything. It was a dismissal.
Clear. Cold.
I nodded and turned to leave. Hey. I looked back. Livia was watching me now, her expression softer than her sister's. Thank you, she said, for the other day. You're welcome. The door closed. I stood in the hallway, listening to the music start up again, and realized what I'd just signed up for. 3 broken girls. 1 impossible job. And absolutely no idea what I was doing. Curtis was right. This was a mistake. Are you feeling the weight of what Ivy just walked into? Drop a comment if you'd have stayed or left. Because day 1 is about to get a whole lot worse. They didn't speak to me for 3 days. I'd see them in passing, Bianca heading to her room with headphones on, Serena disappearing into the library with books she never read, Livia standing in doorways like a ghost. But whenever I tried to say hello, to ask if they needed anything, I got silence. Or worse, looks that made me feel like I'd already failed. The house felt huge and empty during those days. I'd wake up in that massive bed, eat breakfast alone in my room, then wander the halls trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. The staff avoided me. Darius was gone most days, returning late at night if at all. I was invisible again, just like at the restaurant. Except this time, I was being paid to be invisible. On the 3rd night, I heard it. Shouting. coming from the third floor. I was halfway up the stairs before I remembered Bianca's warning. Stay in your room. Mind your business. But the shouting got louder. Serena's voice, raw and angry, cutting through the quiet. When I reached their door, it was open. Inside, chaos. Books scattered across the floor. A lamp knocked over. Serena stood in the middle of it all, holding something, a violin, I realized, raised above her head like a weapon. I don't care, she screamed at Bianca. I don't care what he wants. I'm not doing it. You're being ridiculous. I'm being honest. Serena's hands shook. He just wants us to be perfect little daughters. Smile for the cameras. Pretend everything's fine. Well, it's not fine. It hasn't been fine since. She stopped when she saw me. They all did. Bianca's expression hardened. I thought I told you to stay out. I heard shouting. So? We shout. We break things. We exist. Deal with it or leave. Serena still held the violin, her chest heaving. I could see tears on her face, angry and hot. What's the violin for? I asked quietly. Nothing. It's trash. Looks expensive. So? Serena's laugh was bitter. Everything here is expensive. Doesn't mean it matters. I stepped into the room carefully. Can I see it? Why? Because I've never held a real violin before. That seemed to catch her off guard. She lowered it slightly, suspicious. You play?
No.
But my mama used to tell me stories about her grandmother. She played violin in a church band, said it was the only thing that made her feel alive. I moved closer, said it was like holding thunder in your hands. Serena's expression shifted. Something vulnerable flickered across her face before she locked it away. She handed me the violin, roughly, like she wanted to get rid of it. I held it carefully. The wood was smooth, beautiful, probably worth more than I'd make in a year. This is incredible. It's a prison. Serena's voice cracked. He bought it because he wants me to perform at some stupid gala. Show everyone how talented and perfect we are. But I can't, I don't even. She stopped, looked away. You don't want to play? I finished. I want to play.
Just not for them.
Not for his world. She grabbed the violin back. You wouldn't understand. Maybe not. But I understand feeling trapped. Bianca scoffed.
Right.
Because your life was so hard. I could have snapped back. Could have told them about the nights I went hungry, the way Mama died slowly while I watched, the cold mornings I woke up in that attic wondering if today was the day I'd finally break. But I didn't. Because they weren't asking about my pain. They were drowning in their own. I'll leave you alone, I said. I turned to go. Made it to the door before Olivia's voice stopped me. Stay. It was barely a whisper, but in the silence that followed, it echoed. I looked back. She was sitting on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, watching me with those sad, knowing eyes. Livia. Bianca started. I want her to stay. Livia's voice was stronger now. Just for a minute. Serena and Bianca exchanged looks. Some silent conversation I wasn't part of. Finally, Bianca shrugged and sat down heavily. I stayed in the doorway, waiting. Tell us something, Livia said. Like what? Something real. Something that hurt. The request was strange, but I understood it. They wanted to know I'd suffered. That I wasn't just another person sent to fix them without understanding what broken felt like. So I told them about Mama's cancer. The way it ate her from the inside while I worked 3 jobs trying to pay for treatments that didn't work. About Daddy leaving one morning and never coming back, no note, no explanation, just gone. About the months I spent sleeping in my car before I found the attic. I didn't cry while I told them.
Didn't dramatize it.
Just laid it out plain and simple. When I finished, the room was quiet. Serena spoke first. That's messed up.
Yeah.
So, why'd you come here? Bianca asked. If life was already hard, why make it harder?
I thought about that. Really thought about it.
Because I saw Livia standing in that street, and she reminded me of myself. Frozen, waiting for something bad to happen. And I thought, Maybe I could keep something bad from happening, even if it was just once. Livia's eyes filled with tears. She didn't let them fall. Our mom died too, Serena said quietly. 6 years ago. Brain aneurysm.
Just gone.
One morning she was making breakfast, the next she was on the floor, and Daddy was screaming, and everything was... She stopped. Swallowed hard. After that, everything changed, Bianca finished. Daddy got colder. The house got quieter. And everyone looked at us like we were made of glass. Like if they said the wrong thing, we'd shatter. Did you? I asked. Bianca's laugh was hollow. We're still shattering. The confession hung in the air between us.
Raw. Honest.
The first real thing any of them had said to me. I sat down on the floor, right there in the doorway. Then maybe we shatter together. At least that way, you won't be alone. Something shifted. I felt it. Saw it in the way their shoulders relaxed slightly, the way Serena set the violin down gently instead of throwing it. We didn't talk much after that, but I stayed. Sat there while Serena picked up books, while Bianca fixed the lamp, while Livia stared out the window. And when I finally left an hour later, Serena said something that made my chest tight. See you tomorrow, Ivy. Not a dismissal. An invitation. I went back to my room, crawled into that too-big bed, and let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I hadn't made a mistake. But the next morning, everything changed. Because that's when Livia got sick. And that's when I learned what it really meant to be part of the Falcone family.
Drop a like if you felt that shift.
Because what happens in Chapter 5 will break your heart before it puts it back together. The fever came on fast. I woke up at 3 a.m. to someone pounding on my door. When I opened it, Serena stood there in pajamas, her face pale, her hands shaking. It's Livia. Something's wrong.
I ran.
Didn't stop to think, didn't grab shoes. Just followed Serena up to the 3rd floor where Bianca stood outside Livia's room, frozen. She's burning up, Bianca said, her voice thin. I don't know what to. She won't wake up properly. I pushed past her. Inside, Livia lay in her bed, her skin flushed red, sweat soaking through her sheets. Her eyes were half open but unfocused, and when I touched her forehead, it felt like touching a stove. How long has she been like this? I don't know. An hour? Maybe less. Serena's voice cracked. We tried calling Daddy, but he's not answering and the house doctor is out of town, and get me cold water, clean towels, and find Marcus.
Now.
They scattered. I sat on the edge of Livia's bed, my mind racing through everything I remembered from taking care of Mama. Fever this high, this fast, could be 100 things. Most of them bad. Livia, can you hear me? Her lips moved. A whisper. Cold. I know, sweetheart. We're gonna fix that. Bianca returned first with towels. I soaked them in the water Serena brought, pressed them against Livia's forehead, her neck, her wrists. Her skin was so hot the towels dried within minutes. Where's Marcus? I asked. He went to find Daddy, Bianca said. He's at some meeting downtown. It'll take him at least 40 minutes to get back. 40 minutes. I looked at Livia's flushed face, her rapid breathing. That might be too long. Okay. We need to bring the fever down ourselves. I turned to Serena. Go to the kitchen. Get ice. As much as you can carry. Bianca, find medicine. Anything for fever, Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever's in the house. They ran. I stayed with Livia, talking to her softly, changing the towels, monitoring her breathing. She mumbled things I couldn't understand, fragments about her mother, about being cold, about darkness. You're okay? I whispered, even though I wasn't sure that was true. I'm right here. I'm not leaving. Serena returned with ice. We wrapped it in towels, placed it strategically around Livia's body. Bianca came back with medicine, her hands shaking so hard she almost dropped the bottle. I got Livia to swallow 2 pills with water. Then we waited. The minutes crawled. Livia's fever didn't break. If anything, she seemed worse, her breathing shallow, her skin somehow even hotter. Panic started creeping up my spine. What if this was more than just a fever? What if she needed a hospital? Should we call an ambulance? Serena asked, reading my mind. Not yet. Let's give the medicine time to work. But I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure about anything except that this girl, this small, sad girl who'd barely spoken to me, couldn't die.
Not now.
Not like this. I started singing. Didn't even realize I was doing it until the words were already out. An old lullaby Mama used to sing when I was sick. Soft and gentle, about stars and safe places. Bianca and Serena watched me like I'd lost my mind. But I kept singing, kept cooling Livia's skin, kept praying to whatever God might be listening that she'd be okay. Around 4:30, her breathing started to even out. The redness in her face began to fade. By 5, when I checked her temperature again, it had dropped 3 degrees. The medicine was working. I sagged with relief. Bianca sat down hard on the floor. Serena started crying. Quiet, exhausted tears she tried to hide. She's going to be okay, I said, more to convince myself than them. We stayed like that. All of us. Bianca on the floor, Serena in a chair, me sitting on the edge of Livia's bed, still holding her hand. Nobody spoke. We just existed in that quiet space between terror and relief, waiting for daylight. Around 6, Livia's eyes opened. Really open this time, focused and clear. Ivy. Hey, sweetheart. How you feeling? Tired. Thirsty. She looked around at her sisters. Why does everyone look so scared? Because you scared us half to death, Bianca said, her voice rough. Your fever was through the roof. Livia's hand tightened around mine. You stayed. Of course I stayed. The others never stayed. When we got sick, they'd call someone. Leave us alone until help came. Her voice was small. You didn't leave. I'm not going anywhere. Something in her face crumpled. Not sadness exactly. More like relief, so deep it hurt. She pulled my hand closer, pressed it against her cheek. That's when the door opened. Darius stood there, still in his suit from whatever meeting he'd been at, his tie loosened, exhaustion written across his face. Marcus stood behind him, looking grim. How is she? Darius asked, his voice tight. Fever's breaking. She's awake. I moved aside, so he could see. He crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt beside the bed. Livia. Baby girl.
I'm okay, Daddy.
His hand shook when he touched her forehead. I saw something crack in his expression. Fear, guilt, relief all mixed together. For a moment, he didn't look like the most dangerous man in New York. He just looked like a father who'd almost lost his daughter. He glanced at Bianca and Serena. You two okay? They nodded. He studied them for a long moment, then looked at me. What happened? I told him. The fever, the medicine, the hours of cooling her down. He listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with each word. When I finished, he stood. Marcus, get Dr. Patterson here. I don't care if he's out of town. Send a helicopter if necessary. Marcus disappeared. Darius turned back to me. You saved her. Again. I just did what anyone.
No.
His voice cut through my protest. Not anyone. Most people would have panicked, called for help and waited. You acted. He looked at his daughters, all 3 of them watching him with wary eyes. Thank you. The words sounded like they hurt to say, like he wasn't used to thanking people. Or maybe like he wasn't used to needing to. Can I talk to you? He asked. Outside. I followed him into the hallway. He closed the door behind us, leaned against the wall, and for the first time since I'd met him, looked completely drained. I should have been here, he said quietly. I should have answered when they called. Instead, I was in a meeting, negotiating deals that don't matter half as much as, he stopped. Ran a hand over his face. This is why they need you. Because I can't always be here. Can't always protect them the way I should. You're here now. Hours too late, but you came. That's what matters. He looked at me. Really looked at me. Not like that first night when he'd been calculating, assessing. This was different.
Softer.
Human. Why are you really here, Ivy? And don't say it's just a job. Nobody does what you did tonight for just a job. I thought about lying, about giving him some easy answer, but the exhaustion made me honest, because I know what it's like to lose someone you love, to watch them slip away while you're helpless to stop it. And I know what it's like to be alone after. I met his eyes. Your daughters have lost enough. If I can keep them from losing anything else, even just a little bit, then maybe all the bad stuff I went through meant something. The silence stretched between us,
Heavy.
loaded with things neither of us knew how to say. Finally, he nodded. The job is yours. Officially. Whatever you need, resources, help, anything, you have it. I just need them to trust me. They will. They already do, even if they don't know it yet. He pushed off the wall. Get some rest. I'll stay with them for a while. I walked back to my room as dawn started breaking through the windows. My body ached. My eyes burned. But something in my chest felt lighter than it had in years. I'd helped. Really helped. Not by fixing everything or having all the answers, but by just being there. By staying when everyone else left. I crawled into bed fully clothed and fell asleep within seconds. When I woke up around noon, there was a note slipped under my door. I recognized the handwriting immediately, sharp, precise, controlled.
You're part of this family now.
Whether you like it or not.
DF.
I read it 3 times. Folded it carefully. Put it in the drawer beside my bed. Part of a family. The words echoed in my head. I hadn't had one of those since Mama died. Hadn't let myself want one because wanting things just meant losing them eventually. But standing there in that massive room, in this dangerous house, with 3 broken girls upstairs and a father who carried the weight of empires on his shoulders, I let myself want it. Just a little. Just enough to stay. I got dressed and headed upstairs. When I reached their door, it was already open. Inside, all 3 girls sat on Livia's bed, Bianca reading aloud from a book, Serena braiding Livia's hair, Livia looking tired but alive. They looked up when I entered. You look terrible, Bianca said. Thanks. You're real sweet. Serena smiled. Actually smiled. We saved you some lunch. Well, breakfast. Whatever meal it is now. A plate sat on the desk. Sandwiches, fruit, cookies that looked homemade. They'd made it themselves.
For me.
You didn't have to do that. We know, Livia said softly. We wanted to. I sat down in the chair, picked up a sandwich, and took a bite. It tasted better than any meal I'd had in that house so far. Not because of the food itself, but because of what it meant. This was their way of saying thank you. Of saying they saw me. Of saying maybe, just maybe, I could stay. We ate together. Talked about nothing important. TV shows.
Books.
The way the kitchen staff always burned the bacon on Thursdays. Normal things. Safe things. But underneath it all, something had shifted. The walls they'd built so high were starting to crack. Not breaking yet, that would take time. But cracking enough for light to get through. For hope to get through. And somewhere in the house below us, Darius Falcone stood in his study, staring out the window, and for the first time in 6 years he smiled. Really smiled. Because the impossible was happening. His daughters were healing. And the shy waitress who'd stumbled into their lives was becoming the one thing they'd needed all along. Someone who wouldn't leave. If you're still with us, drop a comment right now. Tell me if you think Ivy can truly save this family, or if the darkness coming will be too much. Because what you don't know yet is that someone's been watching. Someone who wants the Falcone girls for reasons that'll make your blood run cold. Subscribe before Chapter 6, because the real danger is just beginning. 3 months passed like a dream I kept expecting to end. The girls laughed now. Real laughs, not the bitter kind. Serena painted instead of breaking things. Huge canvases she'd set up in the garden, colors splashed across white like emotions finally released. Bianca stopped testing me every 5 minutes, started asking questions instead.
About life. About Mama.
About how I survived when everything fell apart. And Livia talked. Not constantly, but enough. Enough that I learned she loved astronomy, that she memorized constellations, that she stayed up late watching stars because they made her feel less alone. We became something close to normal. Whatever normal meant in a house like this. Darius noticed. I'd catch him watching us during dinner. The four of us at the massive table, talking over each other, stealing food from each other's plates. He never joined in much, but his eyes would soften. That winter look would thaw just slightly. Sometimes he'd pull me aside after the girls went to bed. We'd sit in his study, him with whiskey, me with tea, and talk about nothing important.
Books.
Weather. The way Serena's paintings were getting darker, more complex. He never mentioned his work. Never talked about the meetings, the phone calls at midnight, the men in suits who'd show up and disappear into rooms I wasn't allowed near. I knew better than to ask. But the house felt alive again. The staff whispered about it. Even Marcus, stone-faced, silent Marcus, smiled once when Livia hugged me goodbye before bed. Everything was perfect. That should have been my first warning. It was a Tuesday when I noticed the car. Black sedan, parked across from the estate gates, same spot for 3 days straight. Different drivers, but always watching. I mentioned it to Marcus during breakfast. His expression went dark. Stay inside today. Don't take the girls out.
Why?
What's wrong? He didn't answer. Just left, phone already at his ear. The girls sensed something shifted. They were quieter at lunch, watching me with careful eyes. Is everything okay? Bianca asked. Everything's fine. You're lying. She set down her fork. We're not stupid, Ivy. Something's happening. I wanted to protect them. Wanted to keep pretending everything was still perfect. But they deserved better than lies. There's been a car outside. Marcus is handling it. Serena's face went pale. They're back. Who's back?
The men.
The ones who, she stopped. Looked at Bianca. Tell me, I said quietly. Bianca's jaw tightened. Before you came, there were men who'd show up sometimes. Daddy would get tense. We'd hear arguments. One night, someone tried to break into our wing. That's when most of the nannies left. They were scared. My stomach dropped. Did anyone hurt you?
No.
Daddy's security stopped them. But after that, nobody wanted to stay. Livia's voice was small. They said we were too dangerous to be around. I reached across the table, took her hand. You're not dangerous. Whatever's happening, it's not your fault. But fear had already crept into the room. I could see it in their faces, feel it in the air. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about that car, those men, the way Marcus had reacted. Around 2 a.m, I heard voices downstairs.
Angry. Sharp.
I crept to the top of the stairs. Darius stood in the foyer with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, expensive suit, but something cold in his posture. His voice carried up the stairs. You can't hide from this forever, Darius. The debt doesn't disappear just because you want it to. I paid what was owed. You paid what you thought was owed. The syndicate disagrees. The man smiled. Cruel. They want insurance. Collateral. And we both know what that means. My blood went cold. My daughters are not collateral. Then figure out another way.
Fast.
Because if you don't. The man's smile widened.
Well.
Accidents happen. Even in houses like this. He left.
The door closed.
And Darius stood there in the silence, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. I backed away before he could see me, my heart racing, my mind spinning with questions I didn't want answered. The girls weren't just daughters of a powerful man. They were leverage, bargaining chips in a game I didn't understand. And suddenly, staying didn't feel brave anymore. It felt dangerous. The walls are closing in, and Ivy just realized she's in deeper than she ever imagined. Comment below, would you stay or run? Because Chapter 7 is where everything explodes. I didn't tell the girls what I'd heard. How could I? How do you tell 3 kids that someone sees them as payment for their father's mistakes? That men in expensive suits were circling like wolves, waiting for the right moment to strike. So I smiled through breakfast, helped with homework, pretended everything was normal while my mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Darius left early that morning. Didn't say where. Just kissed each daughter on the forehead and told Marcus something I couldn't hear. Marcus doubled the guards. I counted 6 new faces on the property by noon. The girls noticed.
Of course they did.
Something's wrong, Bianca said during lunch. Daddy only brings in extra security when… When what?
I asked.
She exchanged looks with her sisters. When people threaten us. Has that happened before?
Twice.
Once right after Mom died. Again last year. Serena pushed food around her plate. Both times, people ended up dead. Not us. The people who threatened us. My appetite vanished. Dead how? We don't ask questions, Livia whispered. That's the rule. Don't ask about Daddy's work. Don't ask about the men who visit. Don't ask about bodies. Bodies. She said it so casually, like it was normal. Maybe in their world, it was. I excused myself, went to find Marcus. He was in the security room, watching monitors, his jaw tight. I need to know what's happening, I said. No, you don't. Yes, I do. If the girls are in danger. They're always in danger.
He didn't look at me.
That's the price of being a Falcone. You think this life is mansions and money? It's targets and threats and watching your back every second. Then why am I here? If it's this dangerous, why bring me into it? Finally, he turned. Because Darius thought you'd be good for them. That maybe they'd have something normal before.
He stopped.
Before what? Before the world closes in. The words hit like a punch. I left the security room feeling sick, feeling trapped, feeling like I'd walked into something I couldn't walk out of. That night, I couldn't stay in my room. Went downstairs around midnight, needing air, needing space. That's when I heard them. Voices. Coming from Darius's study. The door was cracked open just enough. Don't care about your timeline, Darius was saying. His voice was ice. My daughters are off limits. Then you better find another solution. A different voice.
Familiar.
Because Mateo's getting impatient. He wants what's owed. Mateo. I froze. That was Darius's brother. I'd heard the name, but never met him. My brother wants a lot of things. Doesn't mean he'll get them. He'll get them one way or another. And if you keep refusing, he'll go through the girls to get to you. You know he will. If he touches my daughters. You'll what? Kill your own brother? The syndicate would love that. Give them an excuse to move in. Take everything. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Get out, Darius said quietly. Think about it, Darius. Before it's too late. Before someone makes a decision for you. Footsteps. I scrambled back, pressed myself against the wall in shadows. A man in a dark coat walked past, didn't see me. The front door opened and closed. I waited, counted to 30, then slipped toward the study. Darius sat at his desk, head in his hands, looking defeated in a way I'd never seen. Vulnerable. Human. I should have left. Should have given him privacy. But my feet carried me forward. How much did you hear? He asked without looking up. Enough. Then you know. My brother wants to use my daughters as leverage. Trade them to the syndicate to clear debts I didn't make.
He finally looked at me.
He's family. My own blood. And he'd sell 3 innocent girls to criminals. What are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. Cut him out completely. But that means war. With my own brother. With people who've known my daughter since birth. His laugh was bitter. Some choice. I sat down across from him. The girls told me people who threaten them end up dead. They do. Will your brother? If he touches them, yes.
No hesitation.
No doubt. I've killed for less. But killing family, he rubbed his face. That's a line even I haven't crossed. Maybe you won't have to.
How?
I didn't have an answer. Didn't know anything about this world, these rules, these games where children became pawns. But sitting there, watching this man who everyone feared look completely helpless, I made a decision. I'll help, however I can. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. The moment I stayed, it became my fight. I leaned forward. Those girls trust me. They're finally healing. I won't let anyone take that away from them. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. or surprised that someone would choose to stand with him instead of running. You have no idea what you're offering. Then tell me. Tell me everything. Because if I'm going to protect them, I need to know what I'm protecting them from.
So he told me.
About the syndicate. About debts his father made that Darius inherited. About Mateo's betrayal, his greed, his plan to trade the girls for control of the family empire. About threats that came through phone calls, dead rats on doorsteps, close calls that security barely stopped. By the time he finished, dawn was breaking outside. And I understood. This wasn't just a family. It was a war zone. And the girls I'd grown to love were standing right in the middle of the crossfire. What do we do?
I asked.
We wait.
Watch.
And when Mateo makes his move, because we stop him. Darius stood. But Ivy, if this gets bad, if things go wrong, you take the girls and run. Don't look back. Don't try to be a hero. I'm not leaving them. You might have to.
No.
I stood too. I've lost everyone I ever loved. I'm not losing them. Not without a fight. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. A warrior acknowledging another warrior. We didn't know it then, but we'd just declared war. Not with words or weapons, but with something more dangerous. Loyalty. And in the world of the Falcons, loyalty was the one thing that got you killed. The enemy isn't outside the gates anymore. He's inside the family. Hit that like button if your heart is racing, because Chapter 8 is when the betrayal strikes and blood spills on marble floors. The call came 3 nights later. I was reading to Livia, some fantasy novel about dragons and princesses, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Ivy. Marcus's voice.
Sharp. Urgent.
Lock their door.
Now.
Don't open it for anyone except me or Darius. Do you understand? What's happening? They're coming. Mateo's men. Lock the door.
Now.
The line went dead. My hands shook as I stood. Bianca looked up from her book. What's wrong? We need to go. Right now. Go where? Serena asked. Somewhere safe. I grabbed Livia's hand. Pulled her up. Come on. All of you. Move. They'd been through this before. I saw it in how quickly they responded, how they didn't argue, just followed. We rushed into the hallway. I locked their main door, but it felt flimsy, useless against whatever was coming. There's a panic room, Bianca said. In the East Wing. Behind the library. Show me. We ran. The house felt different now.
Darker.
Every shadow held threat. Somewhere below, I heard shouting. Then a sound that made my blood freeze. Gunfire. Livia whimpered. I pulled her closer as we reached the library. Bianca shoved books aside, revealing a keypad. Her fingers flew across numbers. A section of wall clicked open. Inside, I said.
Now.
They scrambled through. I followed, pulling the door shut behind us. It sealed with a heavy thunk. Soundproof. Bulletproof. A room designed for exactly this moment. The space was small, lit by emergency lights. Supplies lined the walls. A phone mounted on the wall, direct line to security. I grabbed it, dialed Marcus. It rang.
And rang.
No answer. Try Daddy, Serena said. I did. Same result. Nothing. The girls huddled together on a bench. Livia was crying silently. Bianca held her, but her eyes were wild. Serena rocked back and forth, humming something tuneless. It's okay, I said, trying to sound calm. We're safe here. Nothing can get through that door. That's what they said last time, Bianca whispered, right before someone died. More gunfire. Distant but clear.
Shouting.
Crashes. The sounds of a war happening in the house above us. I pulled out my phone. Still had signal. Texted Darius. We're in panic room. Girls safe. Where are you? The minutes crawled. No response. More sounds of chaos. Then suddenly silence. Worse than the noise. The silence felt heavy. Final. Do you think they're dead? Livia asked. Daddy and Marcus and everyone?
No.
They're fine. There. The phone on the wall rang. We all jumped. I grabbed it. Hello. Ivy. Darius's voice.
Rough. Strained.
You're all okay?
Yes.
What's happening? Mateo made his move. Sent men to take the girls. We stopped them.
A pause.
Heavy breathing. But there are more coming. Different route. I need you to keep them in that room until I say otherwise. No matter what you hear, no matter what happens, do not open that door. How bad is it? Bad enough that I'm calling you instead of coming myself. Something crashed in the background of his call. Ivy, listen to me. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen. If something happens, there's a code. 73924. It opens a tunnel under the panic room. Leads to the groundskeeper's cottage on the north side. Cars waiting there.
Keys under the mat.
You take the girls and you drive. Don't stop. Don't look back. My heart hammered. Darius. Promise me. I promise. Good.
His voice softened.
Tell them I love them. Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. What did he say? Bianca asked. I turned. 3 faces stared at me. 3 girls who'd already lost their mother, who'd already survived too much, who were sitting in a concrete room while their father fought for their lives upstairs. He said he loves you, and that everything's going to be okay. Lies felt necessary sometimes. We waited. 1 hour.
2.
The sound stopped completely. Just silence pressing in from all sides. Then footsteps. Outside the panic room. Heavy.
Slow.
We froze. A knock. 3 times.
Pause.
2 times. That's Daddy's knock, Serena breathed. I moved to the door, hand on the release. Mr. Falcone? It's me. Open the door, Ivy. Something felt wrong. His voice was right, but the cadence was off. Too smooth.
Too calm. Give me the code, I said.
What code? The one you just told me. To prove it's you. Silence. Long, dangerous. Then laughter.
Cold.
Pull. Smart girl. But it doesn't matter. We're coming in anyway. Not Darius. Someone else. Someone who sounded just enough like him to fool us. Back up, I told the girls. Get against the back wall. They scrambled. I looked around frantically. The room was sealed. No other exits except the tunnel. 73924. I found the panel, punched in the code. It clicked. A section of floor slid open, revealing stairs leading down into darkness.
Go, I said. Now.
What about Daddy? Livia's voice cracked. He'll find us. I promise. But right now, we need to move. The panic room door groaned. They were cutting through, grinding metal. We had maybe minutes. Bianca went first, pulling Livia. Serena followed. I climbed in last, hitting the panel to close it behind us. The stairs were steep, dark, claustrophobic. We descended fast, my phone flashlight barely cutting the black. Behind us, above us, metal shrieked. They'd broken through. We reached the bottom. A tunnel just like Darius said.
Narrow. Cold.
Leading north. We ran. My lungs burned. The girls panted beside me. But we didn't stop.
Couldn't stop.
Because somewhere behind us, men were coming. Men who wanted to use these girls, hurt them, destroy them. The tunnel ended at a ladder. We climbed. Pushed through a hatch. Emerged in a small cottage, dusty and dark.
Keys under the mat.
Just like he said. We piled into the car. I started it, hand shaking so hard I almost dropped the keys. Where's Daddy? Livia sobbed. Why isn't he here? He'll meet us. I lied. He'll find us. But as I drove away from the estate, watching it shrink in the rearview mirror, I wondered if that was true. Wondered if Darius Falcone was still alive. Or if we were running from a house that had already become a tomb. Everything just shattered. Drop a comment if you're still breathing. Chapter 9 answers the question, did Darius survive? And what Ivy discovers will change everything. I drove for 2 hours before pulling over at a rest stop, hands still shaking, mind still racing. The girls hadn't spoken since we left. Just stared out windows, holding each other, processing trauma I couldn't begin to understand. My phone had 11 missed calls, all from numbers I didn't recognize. Nothing from Darius. Nothing from Marcus. Are they dead? Bianca asked finally. Flat. Emotionless. The tone of someone who'd already accepted the worst. I don't know. You promised Daddy would find us. I know what I promised. Serena turned, her face streaked with tears. You lied to us, just like everyone else. I didn't lie. I hoped. Hope doesn't matter. Her voice cracked.
People die.
That's what happens in our family. People die and we survive and we keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. Livia put a hand on Serena's arm. Gentle.
Calming.
We're alive because of Ivy. She got us out. But at what cost?
Bianca whispered.
My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I stared at it, fear and hope warring in my chest. Finally answered. Ivy. Marcus's voice.
Rough.
Exhausted. But alive. Where are you? Relief hit so hard I almost cried. Rest stop. Off Highway 40. Is Darius. He's alive.
Barely.
Took 2 bullets, but he'll live. Voices in the background. Stay where you are. I'm sending someone to get you. 30 minutes. What happened? Mateo's dead. Darius made sure of that. But he brought more men than we expected. Lost 3 of our guys. House is. He paused.
House is gone.
They burned it. The girls heard. I saw their faces crumble. Marcus, they need to know their father's okay. Put them on. I handed the phone to Bianca. Watched as she listened, her expression shifting from despair to something like hope. She passed it to her sisters. By the time Livia handed it back, they were crying differently. Relief tears instead of grief tears. He's really alive?
Serena asked.
He's alive. And he's asking for you. They collapsed into each other. I stepped out of the car, gave them privacy, and finally let myself fall apart. Leaned against the hood and shook, everything I'd been holding and breaking free.
Fear.
Relief. Exhaustion. Rage at the world that made children suffer like this. A hand touched my shoulder.
Spoon.
A man stood there. One of Darius's guards, one I recognized from the estate. Miss Murren, I'm here to take you to him. We transferred to an SUV. The drive took 40 minutes, leading us to a building I didn't recognize. Industrial. Hidden. The kind of place that didn't officially exist. Inside, chaos. People moving fast, carrying equipment, weapons, medical supplies. Marcus met us at the entrance. He's upstairs. 3rd floor. Room at the end. We climbed. The girls practically ran, desperate to see proof their father was alive. I followed slower, my legs barely working. The room was sparse. Hospital bed, monitors, and Darius, propped up, bandaged but breathing. His face lit up when he saw them. Daddy. Livia reached him first. He winced but pulled her close. I'm okay, baby girl.
I'm okay.
They surrounded him, careful of his injuries but desperate to touch, to confirm he was real. I stayed in the doorway, watching, feeling like I was intruding on something private. Darius's eyes found mine over their heads. He mouthed 2 words. Thank you. I nodded. Couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. Later, after the girls fell asleep on cots in an adjoining room, Darius asked to speak to me. I sat in the chair beside his bed. You saved them, he said quietly. You told me what to do. I just followed instructions. You could have left. Could have run. Instead you stayed. Got them out. Kept your promise. He shifted, grimacing. That makes you family. Whether you're ready for that or not. What happens now? The house is gone.
Mateo's dead.
Where do we go? Somewhere safe. Somewhere the syndicate can't touch us. He closed his eyes. I'm done. With all of it. The business, the violence, the debts. I'm getting my daughters out. And going where? Anywhere but here. He looked at me. You coming with us?
I thought about it. Really thought about it.
This wasn't my family. I'd stumbled into their lives by accident, stayed out of kindness, and somehow ended up in the middle of a war. But watching those girls sleep, peaceful despite everything, I realized something.
They were my family now.
The only one I had. I'm coming, I said. He smiled.
Good.
Because they'd never forgive me if I left you behind. We sat in comfortable silence. Outside, dawn was breaking. A new day. A new chance. The Falcone Empire had fallen. But from the ashes, something else was rising. Something quieter. Safer. Better. A family that finally had a chance to heal. One more chapter left. One more truth to uncover. Hit subscribe because Chapter 10 reveals where they went, what they became, and the legacy Ivy built from ruins. 6 months later, I stood on a porch overlooking water, watching 3 girls chase each other on a beach that stretched forever. Their laughter carried on the wind, real and unguarded and beautiful. We'd landed in North Carolina. Small coastal town where nobody knew the name Falcone, where the biggest crime was teenagers stealing beer, where life moved slow and quiet. Darius bought a house under a different name. Simple. Normal. The kind of place people raised families without looking over their shoulders. He'd dissolved everything. Sold what he could legally, walked away from what he couldn't. Let the syndicate fight over scraps while he disappeared with his daughters. Some called it cowardice. I called it survival. The girls thrived. Serena painted the ocean, capturing light and color in ways that made people stop and stare. Bianca enrolled in community college, studying literature, making friends who didn't know what her last name used to mean. Livia joined an astronomy club, spent nights mapping stars with people who loved them as much as she did. They were healing. Really healing. Not just surviving anymore, but living. Darius changed too. The hard edges softened. He smiled more. Laughed sometimes. Started coaching a local youth basketball team, giving kids structure and mentorship without violence attached. At night, we'd sit on this porch, him with coffee, me with tea, and talk about futures instead of pasts. Think they'll be okay? He asked one evening, watching the girls. I think they already are. Because of you. Because they're stronger than anyone gave them credit for. I looked at him. Including you. He chuckled. Fair point. We'd never talked about what we were. Not officially. But somewhere between running for our lives and building new ones, we'd become something. Partners, maybe. Or just 2 people who'd survived hell together and decided that was enough foundation to build on. The town knew me as Ivy, the woman who helped raise 3 girls who'd lost their mother.
They didn't know the rest. Didn't need to.
That life was dead. Buried in ashes of a mansion that no longer existed. Sometimes I wondered about Marcus. He'd stayed behind to clean up, to make sure no threads led to us. Last I heard, he'd moved to Seattle, started a security company, was doing good work keeping dangerous people safe from worse people. He called once a month to check in. Never stayed on long. Just enough to confirm we were still breathing. You ever regret it? Darius asked. Giving up your old life for this? I thought about the attic apartment, the restaurant job, the loneliness that had defined my existence. Then looked at the girls on the beach, at the man beside me who'd given up an empire for his daughters, at the life we'd built from nothing. Not even once. Bianca called from the beach. Ivy.
Come on.
Water's perfect. I stood. You coming? Darius smiled. Wouldn't miss it. We walked down together. Joined the girls in waves that washed away old wounds, old fears, old versions of ourselves we'd outgrown. And standing there, water cold and sun warm, surrounded by people I'd die for and who'd die for me, I understood something fundamental. Strength didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered through quiet acts of courage, through choosing to stay when everyone expected you to run, through building new lives when old ones crumbled. Power wasn't about control or fear or dominance. It was about love fierce enough to walk through fire, about kindness strong enough to change hearts, about believing that broken things could be made whole if you cared enough to try. The Falcone name used to mean fear. Now it meant something else.
Second chance.
Redemption.
Hope.
And I was part of that story. Not because I was special or brave or different, but because when a little girl in a yellow dress needed saving, I didn't hesitate. Didn't calculate risk or worry about consequences. Just acted. That one choice changed everything. For them. For me. For all of us. As the sun set over water, turning everything gold, Livia took my hand. "Thank you," she said softly, "for not leaving. Thank you for giving me a reason to stay." That night, we had dinner together. All 5 of us. Real family. Imperfect. Messy. Beautiful. Everything I'd lost and thought I'd never find again. Darius raised his glass. "To new beginnings." "To people who stay," Bianca added. "To family," Serena finished.
We drank.
We ate. We laughed. And somewhere in the world, the syndicate still existed. Bad men still did bad things. Violence still echoed through streets and empires. But here, in this small corner of existence we'd carved out for ourselves, we were safe. We were whole. We were proof that even the darkest stories could find light if someone was brave enough to fight for it. My name is Ivy Murrin. I used to be invisible. A waitress nobody noticed. A woman the world forgot existed. Now I'm the woman who saved a family everyone said was beyond saving. The woman who proved kindness could be the most dangerous weapon of all. The woman who showed 3 broken girls that they deserved to be whole. And if that's not power, I don't know what is. This is where their story found peace. But every ending is just another beginning. If this story moved you, if it made you believe that courage comes in quiet forms, then share it. Tell someone who needs to hear that broken doesn't mean beyond repair. That staying is sometimes the bravest choice. That kindness, when it decides to fight back, can change the world. Subscribe to this channel because we're just getting started. More stories of quiet justice, unexpected courage, and love that refuses to surrender. Hit that notification bell. Drop a comment telling us what this story meant to you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Until next time, remember, you're stronger than you think, braver than you know, and the world needs your particular kind of courage. Stay powerful. Stay kind. Stay unbreakable.